dissipate this!
Abraham Lincoln vs. Zombies starts off in Abraham Lincoln's youth, where he's forced to kill his zombified mother. From there, the film takes us to 1863, where Lincoln is now president and the Civil War is in full swing. Abraham Lincoln gets the word of a mysterious virus that's overtaken a Confederate fort. After seeing one of the victims, Abraham knows it's the virus from his youth, and that it has the ability to destroy both the Yankees and Confederates. He has no other choice but to lead a top-secret mission to the Confederate fort in order to wipe out the threat. After only watching a few minutes of this movie, I realized it had a lot going for it. Firstly, Abraham Lincoln is the perfect character for this type of film, as he is one of an elite group of people who have managed to transcend humanity and become an icon. In Lincoln's case, he's an icon for good and righteousness, so having this larger-than-life man fighting a supernatural evil is quite appealing and makes sense in a crazy kind of way. On top of that, having this film be about zombies and setting it in the Civil War is utterly perfect, considering that in traditional voodoo, zombies were slaves, and the Civil War was primarily about Lincoln trying to abolish slavery. And all of this is such a crazy, perfect fit, even better than vampires. Also, I really like the idea that the heroes would have to fight the zombies with close-range, cumbersome Civil War weapons, as I initially thought it would raise the threat of the zombies. Sadly, this film wasn't nearly as good as I was hoping. Warning, spoilers ahead. Lincoln and his men get to the Confederate fort, and this is where the film runs into real problems. That is, nothing really happens. The stakes of the film don't rise, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of internal or external conflict. The film just doesn't really progress. Sure, things happen, but they don't seem to really contribute to the plot in a meaningful way. From there, they find a few extra characters, including Stonewall Jackson, a young Teddy Roosevelt, and one of Lincoln's ex-lovers. They fight some zombies, and then the film reveals that John Wilkes Booth is really on the mission, and he's got to kill Lincoln, but he doesn't. And then they fight some more zombies, and then there's an epilogue, and then it's over. The filmmakers make some big mistakes. Number 1, the zombies suck. After seeing Lincoln's mother in the first scene, I was hoping that they were going to have some Evil Dead / demonic style zombies. Sadly, this was not the case. Instead, they give us zombies that are so slow, it's actually absurd. At times, they're just standing there, doing nothing. The zombies should have spent the entire duration of the film trying to get into the fort. Instead, they're just standing around waiting to be killed. They provide the film with no threat whatsoever. Number 2, the film doesn't really have a bad guy. Sure, this film is about zombies, but zombies are a little strange as they're monsters, but they can't make conscious decisions, so they can't actually fully fulfill the villain role that movies need. Their role is more akin to an environmental disaster than a bad guy. So zombie movies often need a human as the primary villain. This movie kinda has a bad guy, but it's not done very well. The bad guy is John Wilkes Booth, and he's a little useless, and he's not all that evil. Towards the end of the film, he has a chance to kill Lincoln while he's praying, but he can't because he thinks if he dies in prayer, his soul will certainly go to heaven. This sounds like a lame excuse to me. A good bad guy like Hans Gruber would have seen this as an opportunity and killed him without thinking twice. His character kinda gets a payoff. At the end of the film, Lincoln gets bitten, but he doesn't want the general public to know about it, so he gives Booth a tip-off that he's going to be at the Ford Theatre. You know, this would have been cool if I wasn't totally over the movie by the time it happened. They could have dropped the John Wilkes Booth character altogether and no one would have noticed. In reality, Stonewall Jackson should have been a much stronger villain. It makes sense as he was a Confederate general, and it also would have made his turn at the end of the film much more meaningful. I personally think the villain should have been a fictitious Confederate slave owner. Lincoln and the slave owner could have had a showdown in the final act, in which they had to fight each other and all the approaching zombies. In the end, Lincoln can't kill him, but it's okay as the slave owner then gets devoured by a group of black slave zombies. That would have been cool and appropriate. Number 3. The whole premise is stupid. Lincoln's main goal is to kill all the zombies. I don't consider myself a zombie fan, and I can tell you that this is just stupid, as the only thing zombies do is wander around and kill people. There's no way to tell if you've got them all. If the film had established that the zombies themselves were in a confined location, this objective would have made sense. But they're walking around in open fields, and some of them have been undead for days and are no doubt long gone. Yes, and I understand that it's a lot easier to direct this film from the comfort of my mother's basement, so I should give the filmmakers a little slack, because the film does have positives. The guy who plays Lincoln is near perfect, the zombie makeup is really good, and the film does have a lot of cool locations. Now, if you watch my videos, you know I find it very hard not to recommend a film with a silly title. So, all I'll say is Abraham Lincoln vs. Zombies is better in concept than execution. You've been warned.